Okay, so we're going to be going over macros and nutrition today. If you do have a pen or just somewhere to write this down when we do go to the macro calculating part, just because you may want to remember it. But overall, just like brief introduction to nutrition and macros, I've come to see with clients that there's two different types of people whenever they're thinking about nutrition. There's a passive person and then there's a obsessive person. And so obviously those are pretty self-explanatory, but a passive person thinks that nutrition doesn't really matter, or maybe they do think it matters, but they don't really prioritize it. Because of that, they lack progress because you need nutrition and movement to make progress, at least significant progress. And then the obsessive, they think of nutrition and they put too much weight on nutrition. They become obsessive with it. They might be calorie counting for years or months or whatever. It affects their mental health. It affects the way that they view their body. It affects their way that they view food. They typically stop enjoying food and they just think about how it's going to affect their body. So those are the two types of people that I've seen, and so you probably have an idea about where you are, and you don't need to share, it's okay, but that just have that in mind that typically people try tend to sway back and forth between those two. Obviously, the ideal is to have a healthy view of nutrition and exercise and just food in general. I believe like the healthy ideal view is knowing that food is fuel, but also that food is meant to be enjoyed and it's not sinful or neglectful to enjoy meals that aren't necessarily your idea of healthy, as long as the majority of time you are fueling your body well. And cravings really do speak to that. So if you feel like you're craving a lot of sugar or a lot of carbs or just a lot of bad things, and by carbs are not bad, so I want to make that known, but by bad carbs, I mean like junk food, processed food, chips, Little Debbie's, stuff like that. Those are the bad carbs. If you're craving that food, that typically means that you eat it a lot, and so just know, just a cool thing that a dietitian taught me is that whatever you're craving, whether if you're craving fat, like if you're craving, a burger or something that's typically you're low on iron, or if you're craving carbs, your body might need carbs, but instead of eating the junk carbs, try to eat some fruit or some whole wheat bread or pasta because those carbs are good for you. And it could be your body's way of saying that you need to eat more of that. And sometimes it's your body is just adjusted to you eating so much of it that you just crave it. And so if you know that you're not short on carbs or short on fat or short on protein, but you're craving it, that could mean that you're over ingesting it. So just having a mindful attitude about food, but also knowing that it's supposed to be enjoyed. God made it and he gave us taste buds for a reason. So macronutrients, I'm just going to go over the basics of those. I did not really know a lot about them until I worked with a dietitian last year. So everything that I share with you guys, I've learned from her. Obviously, I'm not a dietitian, so get this information from a real professional if you would like. I know Peyton, your mom is a dietitian, so you could obviously talk to her about things. If she's in the car, awesome. But there's three big macronutrients. There's protein, fats, and carbs. And you need all three. You want all three if you want to be healthy. Um, I don't know if you can hear that dinging or not, so I'm sorry. But I truly have seen with just my own journey and with clients' journeys of mine that when people try to cut out one, whether it's carbs or fats, typically what happens is they're underfueling themselves. They might be losing weight, but they're typically losing muscle. And it's typically very rapid. And because of that, their metabolism is adjusted in a bad way and it's altered. And so they're burning less calories. And then whenever they do start eating that macronutrient again, the most common one is carbs. Like if you've ever heard of keto, that's a diet that says no carbs. Whenever you start eating carbs again, you just put that weight back on and it's not entirely sustainable. So I will never ever recommend a diet that cuts one out completely unless, like your doctor recommends it for a certain reason. But that to me is the most sad thing that I see with people is when they cut out a certain food, they're eating very, very little. And because of that, their metabolism slows down a lot. And then when they're trying to lose weight and they can't, even though they're eating very, very little. And it's because of that. It's because their metabolism got adjusted. And so that comes into the next topic of fasting. Obviously, there's religious means for fasting, all for it. But in terms of like intermediate fasting, I have not done a lot of research on that. All I know is that for the people that I've coached and for me and myself, fasting has led to also a metabolism decrease just because you're typically under fueling yourself. And people will say, I lost a lot of weight when I intermediate fast and I only ate between the hours of 12 and 7. And they're losing weight because they are eating less than they are burning. And that's how you lose weight in a deficit. However, they're all probably losing a lot of muscle. And whenever you lose a lot of muscle, that's what alters your metabolism. So, what we will be talking about today, and whenever we calculate your macros, we're going to be calculating it in a 35, 35, 30 split. So 35% of those calories that you eat in a day should go to carbs, 35% should go to fats, and 30% should go towards protein. If you need to switch those around, that's perfectly fine. It's not much of a difference. And so, in order to calculate your macros, you need to know your total daily energy expenditure, or your TDEE is just another way to say it. That's calculated using your height, your weight, how much you exercise. There's very, very accurate ways to do it with like body scans and such. And if you have the opportunity to do that, or if you know where you can get a body scan, I really, really recommend that. That way you can see exactly, precisely how many calories you're burning in a day, your BMI, all of those measurements. But we can just kind of estimate it using a website called tde.calculator, and I'm going to drop it in the chat, and I'm also going to share my screen. And this is how we can find our TDE together right now. So let me share. Okay. Alrighty. So if you open up that website, it's going to ask for your gender, your age, your weight, your height, your activity level. I exercise. I'm like in between those, so I'm just gonna pick moderate. And then if you know your BMI, your body fat percentage, I don't at the moment, so I'm gonna leave that blank. And it's telling me that I burn 2,147 calories per day. So I'm gonna write that down. However, if I was doing heavy exercise, that would be 2389. So what I'll do for what I write down is I'll write down 2200 because that's in between the two. So if you want, you can look, it tells you your BMI score and a lot of different information. Again, this is not the most accurate way to look at this. My gym does have a body scan and it is pretty similar to this. It says that I'm burning like 2,000 something calories per day. So that's probably a little bit more accurate than this, but that's okay. And if you scroll down, it will tell you macronutrients, cutting, bulking. So for, let's say we're cutting, which is just in a calorie deficit. If I was wanting to lose weight, it would tell you these little splits. The one that we can look at is this 30, 35, 35. Because they do the 30 with protein, we're not going to be doing that. So I'm going to go back to my screen. So this is like an equation that I've used to calculate clients' macronutrients of mine in the past. So if I wanted to be in a deficit, if I wanted to lose fat, that would mean that I would be in a deficit. If I wanted to just gain muscle, not necessarily gain fat, but if I wanted to be in a surplus, I would make this calorie more than my TEE. So my TEE again is, we're going to say 2200, and you can use this for you. So if you're writing down, I can't see y'all. Oh, there you are. Okay. Sorry, I was like, I literally can't see if like you're doing anything or waving at me or anything. All right. So my TEE 2200. Let's say I want to be in a deficit. I never recommend more than a 500 calorie deficit. Even that is a lot, especially if your TEE is lower. I know that I will not be able to sustain a 500 calorie deficit. And so I usually say like 300. So let's say I want to be eating 1900 calories a day. That's a 300 calorie deficit. You can lose, I think, 1 to 2 pounds a week doing that type of deficit, and that's more sustainable for me. If you think that you can be in a bigger deficit, that's fine, but don't go below 500 calories because then we get into the under eating and you're going to lose muscle, lower your metabolism, all the things that we talked about. So, with a 35% for fat, calculation you're going to use is 1900. That's how many calories times 0.35, and you divide that by 9 because there's 9 grams of fat. Sorry, there's 9 calories per 1 gram of fat. And this equation was kind of messed up. So I'm using my calculator. 1900 times 0.35 divided by 9, and that's giving me, I'm going to round up because it's 74, it's 73.8, so I'm going to say 74 grams of fat per day that I could be eating. For protein and carbs, there's 4 calories per 1 gram of protein and 4 calories per 1 gram of carb. But let's go ahead and separate that. Let's say it's 30% protein, 1900 times 0.3, then divided by 4. Oops. For me, that would be 142.5 grams of protein per day. And then for the carbs, 1900 times 0.35, because it's 35%, divided by 4, 166 grams of carbs. So whatever your TEE is, remember, if you want to be in a surplus, you add 300 to 500 more calories. If you want to be in a deficit, you subtract 300 to 500 calories, and then you put that in this equation. Obviously, I can send this out. But is this making sense for everyone just before I move on? Okay, sounds good. Obviously, so let's say you're doing a lot of cardio, like you're training for a half marathon. I don't know if anybody's doing that, but let's say you were. You would definitely want to up your carbs, and you would obviously be eating a lot more than just 2200 calories, especially if you're running like 6 miles every day. Then your calories would need to adjust. So just know that if your training goals do change, like let's say you're training for a race or you're doing more cardio, your carbs will want to increase, and you definitely want to keep up that protein, and so your calories will overall increase. But let's say you're trying to just do a very, very, very lean cut. You want to be in a bigger deficit, then your fat might need to drop. Wait, I wrote that wrong. Then your fat might need to drop and your protein can go up. So this could be 35 and this could be 30. So little differences like that will make an overall difference. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. It is possible. I did not know this before working with a dietitian. It is 100% possible to lose fat and gain muscle without ever losing weight. And so if you weren't necessarily like, Riley, I don't really want to lose weight. I don't really care about the number. I just want to tone up. And that just means like have more visible muscle. That is possible without ever eating in a deficit. And so what you would do is just take your TEE calorie, your just maintenance calories, and just put that in the equation. And that would mean you would not be losing weight as in pounds, but your body composition would be changing. So your fat would be decreasing and your muscle mass would be increasing. So your metabolism would be getting faster, you would be looking leaner, more cut, and you would be doing that without ever losing a pound. That is typically when just because I'm horrible at like cutting or eating in a deficit. So that is typically what I try to do just overall is eat in a maintenance calories, not really eating in a deficit, not eating in a surplus, but just eating those 3 macronutrients, tracking them, and making sure that I'm decreasing in fat and increasing in muscle. So I just wanted to put that out there because I did not think that that was possible. So let's talk about tracking. When tracking can be a sensitive subject for the obsessive eater that we talked about earlier, um, by tracking, I mean like inputting what you are eating every day into an app, or you can write it down. It's up to you. If you do want to track, I recommend MyFitnessPal. It's a free app. It's very easy to use, and that's the app that I'm going to show you like how to change in just a few minutes. Pros and cons on tracking. Pros, you know exactly what you're eating. There's no guessing game. Um, it can help you just keep track of it can help you from overeating and undereating. It holds you more accountable, and it's going to make losing weight or gaining weight that much faster just because you have the proof of like what you're doing. Cons, it can be very tiring and exhaustive. It's very tedious. You might have to like input each ingredient into a recipe. It can affect your mental health. It could lead to obsessing over food and just seeing food as just a calorie instead of enjoying it. And so, when deciding to track, if you know that it's a sensitive area for you and you don't think that it'd be healthy for you mentally, then just don't unless you have someone very close to you talking to you about it very often, just to make sure that you're not leading into like a disordered eating pattern or anything like that. Obviously, if you want to take the time to do it now, since I am in the picture and we have each other, that way every week we can be checking on each other, that would be a very safe option. But just be smart about it. If you know that you don't really need to, you're just doing this to be healthier, then don't. There's no reason to. But if you are okay with it, I always recommend tracking, even if it's just for 1 week, because typically what I've seen is people don't know what they're eating. People will be like, yeah, I eat a high protein diet. And then they track for a week and they realize that they're eating 70 grams of protein a day. They might be eating high protein meals, but it's not enough to, like, back on that screen that I was just showing you 140 grams of protein. That's a lot of protein. I don't just eat that just casually. Like, I would have to very, very intentionally plan my meals, plan snacks that are very high protein. 140 grams of protein, that's a lot of protein. So typically people don't really know what they're eating. So I really do recommend, if you are okay with it, to track at least for this next week just to see what you are eating, to see what your sensitive parts are. Like typically women, they're eating a lot of carbs, they're not eating a lot of protein. That's just most women. So just seeing, okay, I'm only eating 90 grams of protein. Don't need to track for the next 3 months, but I just need to know I need to be eating 2 protein snacks a day just to increase that intake. And even that will show progress in and of itself, just making those changes. When I was working with my dietitian and I was doing this, my goal was 140 grams, and I literally never got that goal, but I got close to it and I made a lot of progress. I lost a lot of fat and I gained a lot of muscle just because I went from eating 80 grams of protein to 120, which that wasn't my goal, but that was a 40-gram difference and I made a lot of progress. So if you are tracking, don't get discouraged if you're not hitting exactly on the mark. It's not that meticulous. It's okay. If you're trying, you're doing a good job. So, I'm going to show you. I'm going to try to join my phone again. Hopefully it doesn't do an echo, because I want to show you how to change the settings in MyFitnessPal if you do want to track, because automatically it'll give weird settings and it'll make your macros very, very odd, not the ones that we just calculated. So, let's see. Any questions before we move on? Yes.
Yeah, Riley, the gym I go to, there's a 70-year-old woman who is retired, but she's a personal trainer. And she was telling me that older women need to eat even more protein. Like she tries to get 230 grams of protein a day. I mean, have you read anything like that or heard anything like that?
I've heard that a high protein diet is good for everyone. If you want to eat more than what your macros say, then by all means do it. But if you're only eating, like, let's say, mom, you're eating right now 60 grams of protein, I don't think it's very realistic to say, hey, you need to eat 200 grams of protein. Like, that's a
Well,
big
I agree. I agree. Just an improvement
topping
would
up
be
to
good.
something that's sustainable will be better. And if you can sustainably eat whatever your goal is, then go up from there if you want. Um, it is better, like, the older you get, the more muscle mass you lose and your bone density decreases just because you're not having as much muscle. So it is true that, like, older individuals need more protein typically, and it's typically because they weren't already eating high protein, and so they lost a lot of muscle, so they're trying to play catch up. So yeah, it is more important. It is very, very important that older individuals eat a high protein diet just because I don't know the statistic off my head, but every year there's a statistic that says every year their muscle mass decreases by like whatever percent. I don't know, and I'm not going to make it up, but you do lose muscle as you age. So it is more important, but I wouldn't say that you need to eat 200 grams a day. I don't know. I don't know what you need to eat. Whatever your macros say when you calculate it. All right. If it echoes, I'm so sorry. You might want to lower your volume just for a second.
Recording in progress.
Is there an echo? No? Awesome. Perfect. All right. I'm going to share this screen. Alrighty. So whenever you do download MyFitnessPal, if you do, and remember I'm recording this so I can do it again. So what you will do, mine's already kind of programmed for me, but I'll go through it like I'm not. If you sign up, whatever, go to log food, which is at the bottom left is what I'm clicking. And so this is where you would be tracking your food. If you wanted to add breakfast, I have some recipes here. You can create a recipe. Let's say I had a protein shake. It tells you how much fat, how much protein's in it, and I would add it to my breakfast. So that's how it would go. Over the day, if you want to see your macros and how you're doing, scroll all the way down and go to nutrition, and it tells you your goals. So I already have mine programmed, but you're going to just click one out of the protein, carbs, and fat. And then at right here where it says goal 136, press it. So as you see, I have my carbs at 35%, protein at 30, fat at 30. If you just downloaded the app, it typically is not on that. So let's say 1900, and let's do 35% protein, 30% fat. Let's just say I'm trying to cut. And so now my daily goal would be this. And so whenever I am tracking, on the right, you can see my protein goal is 150, my carbs are 165, fat is 62. So that is how you would do that. All right. Okay. Alrighty. We have about 10 minutes left. We can go ahead and do questions if you have any. Peyton, you're cracking me up when you smile at me. No questions? All right. Well, I have a really fun surprise for you guys. So the past couple months, maybe it's not been that long, but I have been working on like a recipe book for my clients and just for people who like wanted to purchase recipes. And I do have that for you guys now. I have it. And I did set an automatic email to go out at 6:10. So hopefully you get that. If not, I'll check this evening to make sure that all went out. But I'll go ahead and show you now just like kind of what it looks like. There's not like hundreds of recipes. Um, but there's quite a bit. Wait. Stop. Let me try that again. Okay. So this is what it looks like. It's called the Fitness Foodie. I thought that was cute. And then as you go down, there's like a breakfast section. It's not that big because I'm very, very organized. I'm not organized. I'm very, what's it called? When I stick to a routine. I eat the same thing every morning is what I'm trying to say. So I have not branched out that much with breakfast. So, but these are a few different recipes that I have tried. These are a few recipe like high protein snacks. I love chicken salad. And chicken salad is literally such a high protein snack that is so underrated. And you can just like eat a lot of it. It's low calorie, low fat, but very, very high protein. So there's 3 different types of that. And then the dinner recipes, there's a lot more of those. And I've tried all of them, but sometimes I haven't taken a picture of it. So if there's no picture, know that I have tried it. I just don't have a picture of it. Okay. So that is supposed to come out. Hopefully at 6:10 you get that email, but please let me know if you try anything and what you like. I love to like under promise, over deliver. So hopefully that's a very, very sweet surprise for y'all. And hopefully that makes the macros more fun because I know cooking and like knowing what to make is such a headache. And I used to hate cooking, I really felt like, but ever since I kind of found these and found my groove of like what's really, really yummy, but also high protein. I will say they're not like health nut recipes because I'm not that way. Like I'm not gonna eat ground turkey and avocado and that be it. Like I'm just not that type of person, but feel free to eat that way if you want. They're wonderful macros, but those are some recipes that I love and hopefully you find them very useful. So, if there's no questions, then that'll be it for today. I will like post this video sometime tomorrow. That way, like you have it to look back on in case you need to go back and like see how the equation's done or MyFitnessPal or anything like that. All right. Well, I will stick around in case anybody has a question, but if you don't, then you're free to go and I will see you next Wednesday. Bye, guys.
Riley, I love your book. It's so cute.
Thanks.
I love, love, love. I can't wait to try it.
All right,
Bye.
good. Love you. Bye.
Love you too. Bye.